Welcome to the next part of my advanced full bullet character matchup guide. Today's video will feature Ibara. Now, Ibara is a character that has no mobility, meaning you will actually be able to play this fight in your way. You will not have to play under the Ibara's rules, and instead, Ibara, you can escape her easily should the fight go wrong. However, this fight is not very favorable for you. The first thing to mention is that Ibara has more health and higher damage on her alpha, while her alpha also causes a hard knockdown. Meaning the only way you could trade positively with her alpha is if you land 2 for every alpha she lands. This is not impossible to do, especially since she leaves herself very vulnerable with her alpha and beta, and to a lesser extent her gamma. So you can easily get some alpha shots off during that. However, if she's aiming at you, chances are you're only going to get one alpha off before you take damage yourself, and both parties, well, you will enter a hard knockdown state. Ibara will also tend to not want to fight you one-on-one. Ibara will tend to fight you from behind the lines of her teammates, since Ibara is not that great of a character solo. This means that playing against Ibara will often not only be the only one that you are facing. You will often be facing some other character that is with the Ibara. But even if it is just the Ibara, this matchup still isn't great. In range, you can beat her in the medium range, and in fact this is how I would recommend fighting her, is about the distance I'm at now. Since this is about the distance where her beta will no longer land, leaving her only option to be alpha, which, while it still isn't great for you, you could still trade with it, and you could still rack up good damage on her. Another thing is, this character, you will want to face her a lot like how you would Momo in a sense as well. Don't get close unless you are above her. A lot of this is to do with her crazy beta. At high levels, the range on it gets pretty big, but if you're close to her, you will take 210 damage. That is crazy, and this will interrupt your beta, and it will also go through gamma. Oh, I keep misplacing these. But yeah, it will go through gamma. However, her alpha will not go through gamma.
I'll show you.
It is only her beta, and I guess depending on positioning, her gamma, but her gamma really shouldn't go through. You really shouldn't have to worry about that. But her alpha, instead, her alpha will simply go over the wall, like that. Sometimes it'll slip through the cracks, however, it's very rare that this actually happens. A lot of the times it won't even hit you even if it does happen, since this will be your main game plan, is going up. But I would not recommend going for a beta on Ibara unless you are above her, out of range of her own beta, as this is the only real spot that she has where she cannot cover it easily. She can cover it if she looks up and does an alpha, but Ibara really shouldn't be doing that. You likely wouldn't see that from an Ibara. But yeah, just my main advice for this matchup is to get on a building, stay at a spot that is above her, and use your gamma in order to get in the air if you end up having to fight her on even ground. Since while you're in the air, it can be very tough, well, not impossible, but very tough for Ibara to land consistent damage on you with your alpha, or with her alpha, and she can sometimes struggle to do it with beta unless it's at a high level. So she can't really land consistent damage on you while you're in the air most of the time, but you can. So that is generally how you should deal with this matchup, is be above her. Be on a building above where she is and shoot down from below, or just be in the air from gamma.
Here's my best.
You can also come down with a beta as well, but I wouldn't, like, this is generally the most you'll want to do against this character is an alpha into a beta, or 2 alphas from above. 2 alphas from above, depending on angle, will also be effective. Yeah, overall, the Ibara matchup, she will tend to have to play it on your terms, since you actually have much better mobility than she does. However, this doesn't mean this matchup is free, since Ibara has very good close and long-range combat capabilities, and only really tends to struggle against characters with alphas that can just melt her in her vulnerable state. And while yours can do that, it doesn't do it to the extent of Yellow Deku or Bakugo, since those characters tend to be able to get 3 or 4 alphas whenever she goes for her attacks, while you will of course only be able to get 2, meaning your damage will end up being lower than a character like Bakugo or Deku as a punish to her from range. So you will have to, this is still how you probably should fight the matchup, since that's Ibara's, like, one of Ibara's biggest weaknesses is her alpha and beta leave her quite vulnerable. So you still should take advantage of that, but overall you will not be able to take as much advantage of it as a character who has a different type of alpha, like the Todorokis, the All For Ones. The standard shots that don't cause a hard knockdown are able to abuse this and absolutely melt Ibara's health, while you can't. Really, with Ibara, you just want to go up. She can hit you out of the air, and if Ibara does start doing this, keep note of it, and try only to use your gammas when you know it is safe to do so, such as when she's out of alphas, or if you are behind cover already, using your gamma to gain high ground on her could be smart. But if you don't notice the Ibara hitting people out of the air, going for a gamma like this in different directions and kind of alpha spamming her from below should be your primary focus on dealing with Ibara. All in all, the Ibara matchup, I would say, is about a 55-45 in Full Bullet's favor. The matchup is very close. However, I would say Full Bullet has a slight edge, and a lot of this comes from the fact that Full Bullet should win this matchup in the early game, due to Ibara's very poor early game performance, and Full Bullet's not great, but also not bad early game performance. And you have more mobility than she does. However, if Ibara is fighting a 2v2, if it's a Full Bullet v Full Bullet with an Ibara, and on one side, the team with the Ibara will win, even if the other team will consist of something like an All Might. Because Ibara and a teammate make great synergy, since Ibara won't be able to be as vulnerable that way. You should focus Ibara, since her insta-res can be very prominent in team fights, so taking Ibara out first should be a top priority, especially since she doesn't have as much survivability as the other 2 insta-res characters, and instead focuses more on her team keeping her alive. So really, focus Ibara if you're given the chance. If her team comes to assist her, then don't be afraid to run away and perhaps alpha kite, but Ibara herself will not be able to pursue you very easily, so it really should only be you running away from one person once you get out of Ibara's max alpha range. I think that is all to really mention on the Ibara matchup. Overall, just stay above her. Don't face her indoors, as her alpha and beta are very potent indoors. So facing her indoors can be very dangerous. But yeah. Next video will be All Might. Stay tuned for that.